Oh my gosh. I'm really,
Yes.
well, first of all, I'm just very excited for this and for you and just all
I'm
of it.
excited too. Me
How have
too.
you been doing?
Really good, India. Yeah. This year has been utterly transformative.
Mhm.
I asked for something. Um, so I celebrate my new year. So my birthday, as you know, is October 21st, and
Yes.
that's 10 days before the Celtic New Year of Samhain, celebrated as Halloween in the US.
Hmm.
And I'm saying things that I know that you already know, but in case you decide to use any of
Yeah.
this for
Which
your
is
audience.
how I'm going to do it. Just use whatever. So,
Okay. Yeah. I did a whole like ceremony and went on this internal journey. And the request that I had from my guides and my guardians for this experience was that I wanted to be born into the hands of someone who loves me. So as you know, my childhood was not a super happy one. And I haven't always felt that my parents loved me. And I wanted that experience of being loved. And so I really feel like the year since then, the answer was a resounding yes. What I did not think through, and you would think, as far as you and I have come, I would have, is that being born is not an easy process.
right.
If you
Yeah.
ask to be born again, it's not like you wake up the next day and you're a newborn with everything that you ever asked for. First, you have to go through the labor pains.
Right.
So this year has been a huge, like the huge shifts. As you know, I sold my old house, the one that I had shared with my former spouse, and moved to a whole new town, a whole new life. And it was an extremely tumultuous journey. And just I only just like a month and a half ago got rid of the house. It was hanging over me like this lead weight. I mean, it was causing so much turmoil in my life, even after I had moved here to Asheville, which is where I am now. And the it's taken me kind of this month and a half to really settle in and recognize that one of the lessons through all of that. So I kept hearing my guides tell me I was in a constant state of panic, except when I would tap in and listen for my guides, and they would say, just trust us. We're going to lay the steps in front of you, because I couldn't see them. I couldn't see where the money, I was hemorrhaging money. I didn't know where my next money, I used up all of my savings. My revenue was drying up, and I was spending all of this time handling all these bureaucratic things and with urgency. And, there were attorneys involved, and it was all in. And I felt like I didn't have time to devote to my business. And so I wasn't getting the revenue. And my guys just kept saying, just keep your eyes on your mission. We've got the rest, and it's going to appear. And sure enough, things would just show up, like just barely enough, just barely in time, just barely enough, just barely in time. And I'm just realizing that all of that opportunity to trust and to watch the universe show up was an opportunity for me to recalibrate my relationship with money, which, as we all know, is a major currency. It's a major energy that flows through the universe as it's currently constructed in this current existence, right? And when we have an anxious attachment with money, kind of like we were just talking about with children, right? When we get anxious and we try to like do this, and what do? They push
Yeah.
away. They push away, right? But when we say, yes, baby, go fly, eventually they fly back again because you
Mhm.
created that space. And I think all of the things in our lives are that way. And for me, money was a big one, where it was like I was anxiously grasping it, right? And I had to have this opportunity to see that the universe, even when I'm anxiously grasping, the universe still provides for me. But when I can release that and stop having this anxious attachment with money, then I'm able to move into a much healthier relationship where it can show up for me in much more soothing ways. And also, even when it's not showing up, I'm not in a panic about it, which ultimately, when we're panicking, we're not doing ourselves any good anyway. So, all of that to answer your question, how am I doing? I'm doing great. Like, I feel like I've just come through this amazing period
Yeah.
of just incredible turmoil that was also an opportunity for me to sink in deep with my spiritual journey in a way that allowed me to move back into this material world in a much more grounded and centered way. And
Mhm.
things are just kind of like they're just flowing. Life is amazing. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. And what I want to do now is write down a couple things I want to come back to that you said that
Mm.
I absolutely loved. But before we get to Libraing too
Mhm.
hard, I really want to like set the stage a little bit. So I
Yeah.
want to come back to what you said about birthing yourself, and also money as energy. And yeah, we're definitely going to talk more about those things.
Mhm.
But first, just us and
Yes.
this connection and what's happening right now. Because, you know, for those people who are listening to this conversation, it literally just started, where they started listening. And that was after a long, long time of not talking, because I think you visited here like a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a
And
year.
and I saw you, and then we probably haven't talked that much since then. And so what happens with Fen and I is that whether it's 20 years or 1 year or a day, we just dive in.
Just,
Yeah. And that's just
yep.
because, you know, of our soul connection. And that's one
Yeah.
theme that I know we're gonna center around here in this talk, because some relationships you build in life, they're built around circumstance. They're built around what you're doing. They're built around what you have in common. And this connection really is built around the soul connection. And everybody listening can probably think of those for them, where that person is just a soul connection. And you know that in this life you would have been connected to them no matter what. And it has very little to do with those circumstances.
Mm.
Even with us, I mean, Fen and I both met at college and went to
Mhm.
college together in the 1900s and 90s. Because I heard a millennial friend today say something about the 1900s, and she said it very unironically. And I was like, oh boy, okay, please stop doing that. And it's okay, Morgan. I know you did it. You do it, it's fine. I get it. But, but, uh, we met there, but really it could have been anywhere,
Yeah.
because, you know,
And I think what stands out for me in this moment is we didn't know.
right,
We can
right,
look back and we can
right,
see how, like, I was aware of you
right,
and I had feelings about you, about the ways that our lives intersected and didn't
right.
intersect, but I didn't know that
We didn't
this
know
was
each
going to
other as
be.
people. We
No,
didn't
and
know
you
each
knew
other as people.
about me, but
Right.
you didn't know me. And you had feelings about things that were happening related to me, but we weren't besties. We
Yeah.
didn't know
No.
there was going to be this
Yeah.
this thing,
We
right? But we
didn't.
were
Yeah.
but we were connected.
And that's what you really notice about soul connections, is
Yeah.
that the person that's holding the soul connection in this lifetime, they almost are like an avatar. Like
Yeah.
they almost are like I can think of you then, and it's like there's the avatar that was
Mm-hmm.
holding the soul then.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know a lot about you personally, and we didn't have any social type of really interactions. And so it really was just this recognition of that is a
Mm-hmm.
soul connection. We're having
Yeah.
significant intersections,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know a lot about this. And then it was 25 or 6 years,
Yeah.
it was probably 24 years, because I know that I was a new mom. So I know that was, yeah, about
Mm-hmm.
20
It
something
would have
years.
been 2016-ish, right?
Yes.
When we
And
really
so
reconnected.
93 to 2016. So yeah, that was 23 years.
Yeah.
So is that correct math? Was it 33?
Oh, are you asking me math questions now? I didn't know. I'm just gonna get math questions. Oh no. 93, 03, 13,
No, it's
well, 20,
26. It's 26. It's 26.
which
Thank
means it's
goodness.
30 years right now.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, this is the new podcast called Libra's Trying to Do Math Among Other Things. So
Yes.
then when we reconnected, it was through very mystical and well
Yes.
connected things, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And now in the reconnection, there's all these parallels. We are both Libras, and we are, both um have come into our strong intuitive lives and intuitive uh soul purpose,
Mm-hmm.
fulfillings. We're doing readings, and we're doing things like
Mm.
that. years and years later, and there's just so many parallels. We both have
Yeah.
sons, and it's
Mhm.
just it's really amazing. And so now we just sort of let spirit dictate when and how we're going to talk about things.
Mhm.
And always when we do talk, there's a particular person on the other side who's involved. So when we did reconnect, it was because one of our professors, who Fen was very, very close with, and I was very much in admiration of, um, passed away. And so he began to come through. And
Mhm.
this was at a time when neither Fen nor I really knew a lot about
Yep.
intuition, about connecting with the other side at all, beyond
Mhm.
what people just know or think.
Yeah.
And, we just started talking about his death and about things that we were receiving around that. And then that became a conversation about the that soul connection and about what was growing from that.
Yeah.
Oh, now there's this, now there's this, now there's this.
Yep.
And then it just grew into this community
Mm.
of soul connected people really all over the world that we're connected through.
Yep.
But it always comes back to this is sort of the
Yeah.
egg, the little zygote that
Yeah.
began that.
This was really I mean, this relationship, yours and mine, it's so pivotal, that reconnection that we had in 2016. And I think it speaks to something that I briefly touched on earlier, which is how these periods of deep turmoil are often the portals into a new life, right? So when Ken died, um, which I talk about my relationship with him all the time, it's because it was a very meaningful relationship to me, and I didn't know this at the time, but became even more meaningful after he died, which if you had told me at that time, what does that even mean, right? So I had these little inklings. My grandmother had died, and I sort of had this internal experience that she was speaking to me, but I didn't really necessarily believe it. And it was very much like an internal experience, right? But after Ken died, he came back to me, and then he came back to you, and there became this external validation between us. You would say things to me that were coming to you, and I'd be like, oh my God, like that's what I heard too, or that connects with this, that, right? And you were validating the experiences that I was having that were blowing my mind at the time. Now I look back and they seem normal. And when I tell the
Mhm.
stories and people like almost don't believe me because they seem so extraordinary or they're blown away, I'm almost surprised that people are so surprised by it, because it's become my daily life. And I think you and I we had that same journey of like, I had not been raised to be in touch with my intuition. I was not raised to believe what was coming from inside of me, or to believe that these energies were real, right? I believed in this very sort of linear view of the world. And yeah, I would say, just so the relationship with you, it was like I can be having conversations with dead people, but for all I know, they're just conversations I'm having in my head. But then when
Yeah.
you and I start talking here in this 3D world, and you're mirroring back at me things that I've been hearing, quote unquote, in my head, then it
Right.
becomes really real in a
Yeah.
way. And and we've talked about this before. We think Ken orchestrated that. Like he was
Oh
doing that
yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he would give me messages and I'd be like, this is coming through and it's for you. And I would be hearing it as a message. And he was really the first person I was connecting with on the other side as a
Yeah.
thing that was happening. And then you in turn were validating that for me and confirming that for me and
Yeah.
saying, yeah, that is him.
Very often
And
by bursting into tears.
right, exactly. And yeah, so this just grew. And then then spirit just used that connection, and Dr. Deal probably coming through using that connection to grow this community of um what started out as a Facebook group and grew
Mhm,
into
mhm.
now just like goes way beyond social media
Right.
of people just connecting and just growing on this path together. And what's amazing is our story is really cool for us. For everybody on the spirit path out there, there's stories like that, where
Yeah.
it's like, and this is the person who lit my fire with this, and this is the person
Mhm.
who kind of broke me open with that.
Mm.
And because I had another connection from college who really kind of broke open just other aspects of my spirit
Mhm.
journey.
Mhm.
And just knowing like we're walking each other into these new dimensions all the time. And yesterday I was struck by a random thought, or a random spirit thought as I was driving. You see just strangers walking around, and I kind of looked at someone and was like, oh, is that someone I know? Is that and I was like, no, I don't know them. And spirit kind of said, you consider it strange, you consider it special when you see someone on the street. You're like, oh, I know them. And
Mm.
spirit said, isn't it more special when you notice all the people you don't know yet?
Mm.
Like the abundance of
Mm.
people you haven't connected with.
Mhm. Mhm.
How we just are like, that's normal. I don't know all these people. But when you feel into it, it's like, I don't know all these
Yes.
people. Like, I could know them. They have lives, they have stories, and I might know them, you
Yep.
know, in the future, but it's all potential.
Yeah.
Knowing that we have the potential to connect on those soul levels, all the time with all. And then when you really feel that union within, you're like, I'm already doing it. I'm
Yeah.
already connected with them, even though I don't know their story.
Yeah.
That just struck me. And
I
but
love that. I
yeah,
love that, India. And it speaks to me of that this realization that I have on an almost daily basis of just the vastness of the universe in general, right? So we're all so eager to go out and experience the world. And I love to travel, right? I love to go see things that are just different and new and so forth. But I've also learned, and one of the just profound beauties of the universe is that I could literally not move from this spot, and I could find something new to see in every moment. And everything is, the universe is just, it's folded fractally inside of itself, so that there's always something else. And even our greatest scientists and our greatest minds with all the great technology in the world and all this massive funding and whatever, still don't know the answers to the deep questions of the universe, because the
yeah,
universe is too vast. And
yeah,
that's to me, that's such a beautiful thing, is no matter where I am, what I'm doing, how long I have, there's always something new to discover, to explore, to see, some new beauty
yeah,
to unfold. And that's true for other humans. There's so just the number of humans in the universe is just astonishing and beautiful.
yes.
And
And
to
you
think
think
that
about,
each of them is different from the
yeah,
others, like that's amazing, right? Anyway,
yeah.
what were you going to say?
Again, it's like a frequency only Libras can hear, because we are into connection, harmony. I feel like every person who's going to be drawn to listen to this is going to be a Libra going, all right. um, but and that our children, all the connections our children will have,
Mm,
all the
mhm.
places that those will go.
Yes.
It is as infinite as the universe. Um,
Yes.
but what I want to also say is that in those times, of communicating about spirit stuff, I feel like um, it can start sounding, because we enjoy so much, because people enjoy so much talking about the spiritual, talking about what spirit does, because it's so amazing.
Mhm.
And we do leave out the crummy part. And so in
Mm,
between all the, oh my God, spirit showed this and this happened,
mm.
also there's been a lot of, right now I actually feel like I'm dying, and right now I know,
Yep.
when I was a newly a mom, I was like, I don't know how to do this, and you have 3 boys, and what is it? How do you do this? And you
And
got
I was
times,
drowning too.
yeah, and you have times
Yeah.
where you're like, I'm underneath this, and that's such a big part of those
Yeah.
soul connections, is knowing that that's what we're there for. We're there. We're not just there to show up as spiritual people and be like,
Mhm.
hey, don't I look beautifully spiritual? Yes,
Yeah.
don't I? And that's not what it's about. It's,
Yeah.
this is crushing me. Oh, wow. This is what
Yeah.
crushes me. This is what lifts me up. This is what lifts me up. Let's
Mhm.
share. And that's that 2 of Cups in the tarot deck, is
Yeah.
sharing the gifts. And sometimes the gifts are ugly. Sometimes the
Yeah.
gifts, you know, some of the soul connections that have made the biggest changes in us
Yes.
was through destruction. It was through,
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, because I think it's really common for people to think that when they start on their spiritual journey, especially if they've had some kind of a profound beautiful spiritual experience, there can be this expectation that, well, it's all ascension from here. I'm just going to feel better and better and better and better. And you may feel that at first, but then life is going to broadside you. And a big part of the spiritual journey is, we're here in this dimension for a reason. And I really believe that it is part of our purpose, part of our reason for being here is to experience being here. And part of being here is sometimes you have money problems. Sometimes relationships fall apart. Sometimes your kid makes you so crazy, you think that you need to find an adoption agency, right? Like,
Or turn yourself into the defects or whatever it is. Like,
yes.
I'm not doing this
Yes.
correctly, like, help me.
Yes. And not to, like, I don't know how deep we want to go on that, but I mean, we've had some pretty dark nights of the soul, right? I mean, there have been some times when I was, about as bad as you can be in terms of my mental health and struggle and really dark times we've been through, both of
That's
us.
important. And that's important to say. And for me, it was a crescendo of anxiety that happened both when I transitioned into becoming a mom, and then again when I got COVID about a year or so ago. Both of those physical events, physical and mentally challenging events, took me into intense anxiety, the kind that you just cannot manage. And both of those were the birthing, and that's what I wanted to come back to with the birthing. So you're saying, rebirthing yourself and allowing yourself to be rebirthed. It is every bit as disgusting and gross and gruesome and painful and horrible as actual birth can be. And knowing that shouldn't be any different. Just like if a new mother was like, man, I really wanted to do this beautifully and I really wanted to just be gorgeous in the pictures or whatever, you'd be like, that was, you shouldn't have expected that of yourself. Like,
that's a lot to expect.
That's not realistic. And the same with, our spiritual journeys. It is wonderful to want to cruise through them and want to be like, I just want to be in love and positivity and have that transcend, everything. And that's a lovely thought. And that's very unrealistic because, if you're going to have a smooth boat ride of a time, then you're not going to have the transformation.
Yeah. And I can look back and see that every major spiritual transformation has been rooted in something that was in the material world experienced as very painful or tumultuous. I mean, even again, going back to when Ken died, like that was a very painful time for me. That relationship was so important to me and it felt like almost a not survivable loss, like something foundational and fundamental to my being was gone, right?
He was like found family for you, wasn't he? I mean, he was family that you discovered.
Yeah. And we, when I was in college, I was in his office all the time as sort of his student protege, whatever. And then we continued the friendship past, it became a friendship in later years. But yes, so that in those early, he was somebody who really saw who I was, saw what I was capable of, pushed me in ways that nobody had pushed me before, while simultaneously reflecting back to me my essential nature in really positive ways. And and he loved me in a way that I had not been loved by a male figure, right? He loved me the way in that very like the way that we think fathers should love us, right? And I'm putting they can't see the air quotes. I'm putting air quotes around should, because should says who, but in the way that
the protection and the guidance and the nurturing, hearing you, but also believing in you.
Yes. And there was a soul connection that we both recognized. He recognized first, and sort of took me under his wing, but there was definitely a very strong connection there. But looking back on that time, I needed that destruction, because the destruction of my attachments and my stories around what that relationship was, and the loss of that of him in this life, he transitioned over to that life. It was that those painful times. It's like the veil thins between this world and the other worlds. We open. It's like it's like it rips you open, which sounds painful, and it is. But now you're open.
Yeah.
And now those connections can flow in.
Now you can have the new stuff. I love the
Yeah.
way you just said the word destruction, because when you said it, I heard destruct. And I
Yes.
heard it as you're destructing something. You're destructuring something. You're
Yes.
taking the
Yes.
force out of it. The struct is the matrix. It is the what you've come to believe. It is the framework. And so when you're destructing something, you're taking that whole framework out so that you
Yes.
can get to the essence of
Yeah.
what's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that destructuring. Yeah.
Mhm,
That's exactly
mhm.
what destruction is. And that's
Yeah.
that tower card, right? People get scared about the tower card. And I've been scared about the tower card. But what it's really talking about is these structures, these false structures that we build for ourselves, or that other people build for us when we're children, and we accept them, right? We accept these cages that people build for us. And in order to break free of them, we have to first destructure them.
And they're cages because they are meant to protect. It's just like, if you put a baby in a playpen,
Yeah.
that is meant to protect. It's for the safety of the child
Right.
in healthy cases. But even in the healthy, loving cases, that cage, that, it is something to be destructed when you're ready and when it's time. And that's painful, but life without it becomes suffering,
Yeah.
becomes then being too big for this container.
Yeah.
And that's the worst kind of pain. It's the kind that's just all the time. And
Hmm.
the pain of destructing and then bursting forth is temporary.
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful part of pain, is that in the middle of it, being able to say, this is horrible, it feels like forever, but because of these past waves I've been through of growth, I know it's not forever.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's really all you can hold on to in that moment,
Yeah.
is this is temporary and I know that.
Yeah.
Whereas suffering really can be forever if you
Hmm.
subscribe to it, if you continue to believe
Yes.
it, if you hold on to the struct, sure, then it
Yes.
is forever suffering.
And I think people do that a lot, right? Where you think about a job that is okay, but you're miserable in it. But society says you're supposed to stay in it because it's security. It's you've been promoted several times. So how can you let go of that? Right? But you're miserable, and you could spend your whole life in a job you hate. And people do. Lots of people do, right? Because it's terrifying to destructure that part of your life. And the same thing for relationships, right? I've stayed in relationships
Mm-hmm.
that needed to be destructured long before they were actually destructured. And you can see on the other side of that, though, when you do the destruction
Right.
and then the restructuring.
I really like restructing. I think we have a new word. Yeah.
Restructuring, there it is. Yeah, so then you restruct your life in a way that is more aligned with who you are and with what you want. And
Yeah.
you don't even
I
realize
just
how
have to
caged up.
add that I think with two people taught by Dr. Deal and who've received these English degrees from Huntingdon, we have the credentials to create new words. I'm going to go ahead
Yes.
and give that to us right now.
Yes. So thank you to Ken for
Yes,
teaching that half of Shakespeare's words are invented, so we get to invent words too.
did it. We have
Half may be a little high.
destructing, destructing, and restructing,
Restructuring, there it is.
and then destructing, and then just structing by itself. To struct,
Right. To
and then
struct.
to struct, and wait, I'm losing it.
To
And then,
destruct.
but then what's the word for what's inside the struct? What's the word for when you take away the struct? Then there's something in there.
Oh.
That's the thing we need the next word for.
Ooh.
Something in
Yeah, what is
within the struct
that?
that you're freeing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because I think there comes a point where, and I'm not there yet, so I'm not speaking as an expert or a master here, but I think there's a point at which the structs
Mhm.
no longer even matter to us
Right.
because we don't need them. Like, I think that it's almost like, it's like scaffolding when you're building a
Yes.
cathedral or something, right? And when it's complete, the thing can be free. Only it's not a cathedral, it's a soul. It's a flight. It's a
Yes.
being,
So
right?
that's what's inside the struct, the being.
The
The
being.
being is inside the
Yeah.
struct. So then you just, you remove that and you have the
Yeah.
being.
And then
Mm,
at that point, you can be surrounded by any struct,
yeah.
right? It could
And
be
you could be like, I'm
whatever
this
your
one today,
circumstances.
I'm that one tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, and you just answered a huge question, Spirit did it through you of what comes through in many of the readings these days that I'm doing, which
Mm.
is, you know, almost everyone, I'm going to say everyone, because even if someone's in an existing relationship and they continue to be in that relationship, the relationship itself has to destruct for the new essence of the relationship to come through.
Mhm,
It's like when people
mhm.
say they've been married 50 years to like 8 different people, but it was the same person. That has to happen.
Yes.
If that
Yep.
doesn't happen, you're not gonna stay in with that person.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
right now, what I'm seeing is that everyone is that's on the soul path is facing that destructing of the
Mhm,
relationship. And
mhm.
this is not only specific relationships, but it's the relationship
Oh, yeah.
with relationship itself.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
those, even if you're unattached or unconnected or unrelationed, whatever,
Mhm.
it it
We're just inventing so many words right now. I love this.
by the end of the
Unrelation.
podcast, we'll just be speaking an entirely new language that
Yes.
others are welcome to just join us in. That's like the story of Babylon, right? So we're just right back there. So, yeah. So even if you are not in a relationship, your relationship with relationship is changing.
Yes.
So you're destructing that. Go and it is
Yes.
like what you said. Now, when you connect with people in whatever way, I mean, we're doing it right this minute.
Mhm,
We're soul connecting. I just pulled the Two of Cups card because I just could
mhm.
really pull cards,
Mm.
and that's Two of Cups. This is the container it's in right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Right now, it's this, and
Yeah.
tomorrow it will be something else, and
Yeah.
it's spirit flowing through those two people. And so, what
Amazing.
what's the struggle right now that people are having, that including self, is that our minds desperately want the struct. They desperately
Oh,
want
yes.
the container.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but what are we? But what are we going to be? But
Right.
how are we going to solidify
Yeah.
this? And spirit keeps saying again and again, let go of that. Let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And I'll give you, an example, actually, literally something that happened for me this morning. So I've been telling myself this story for a long time. I am estranged from my parents. I don't have extended family, blood family. My brother and I barely speak. I'm not partnered. I have kids, and that's really the only like blood family that I have. And I've been telling myself this story for several years now that I don't have family. And it's been a very painful story to me. I see people going and having their Mother's Days and their Father's Days, and they go for Christmas. And this last Christmas, I celebrated by myself, and I had all these sad little stories around this idea that I don't have family, right? And literally, and yesterday I got an invitation to an amazing opportunity to go spend time with these amazing people at a natural swimming hole playing West African drum together on July 4th, like just this like incredibly fun thing. And it was a group invitation. So and I was the only one who was like, yes, absolutely. And other people were like, oh gosh, but this. And literally this morning I was thinking about this, and I thought, why was it so easy for me to say yes to this beautiful, amazing thing that I'm so excited about, right? And I realized, because I don't have obligations, I don't have quote unquote family obligations. I do what I want to do. And it was all of a sudden, it was like, I've been told, and I know, I've been told, embrace your chosen family. And I know there's truth in that, right? But I still had all this sadness around quote unquote, I don't have family. Um, and I don't mean to be making fun of my yesterday self, because that's a painful thing. Like, these are real pains that we have in life, right? But this morning, it suddenly struck me that there's another way of looking at that is without those external obligations, those structs of what quote unquote family is, it's supposed to be your blood family. It's supposed to be the people you grew up with. It's supposed to be, right? Suddenly you're free.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm free, whether these people are family or friends or just a fun July 4th activity.
Yeah.
I do what I want.
Yeah.
And I think you can, even within the struct of traditional, quote unquote, traditional family, right? But there's a freedom that you gain when you start being willing to let the structs destruct, to choose what you will struct instead.
Yeah.
Or maybe struct nothing.
Be structless. Yeah. And yeah, and it is extra, it's challenging when you're in a position like yours, and it's challenging when you do have those family connections, because your challenge is to then be your beingness even amid what they're expecting you to be, or what you think they might be expecting. And
right.
always it comes back to just that beingness, because whether you're dealing with new connected family or connected family that's been with you for a long time, coming into that place of, what, let's get out of here. Let's get out of the head. Let's just connect in that heart. And this is who I'm being today. And, when you can do that, and then if they're like, if they're coming to you with like well, you're not allowed to do that, or if it's just something that kind of doesn't jive with that, just observing it and observing it as suffering, observing it as like, that looks hard. That looks hard. That, and then coming back to you, okay, I'm not going to choose to engage in that difficulty, because then by engaging in that difficulty, I'm only going to double it. So I'm going to stay in my ease. You're invited into this ease, but I also have compassion to understand if you can't find your way into it right now.
Right. Yes. And I think, India, what you just described is, that's next level stuff, right? There's this ability to sit in what I sometimes call the storm and drang, right? The storm and the thunder and right. And to observe it and to dip in and out of it, right? To be compassionate toward yourself when you go into that space of, I'm caught up in this story, in this drama, in this struct that is happening out here, right? And my grief and my sorrow and all of that, and to be compassionate for all of that, and to also be able to stand back and be that compassionate observer simultaneously saying, I see that you're going through that, and that's really painful. And that part of you to not be in it, and to be able to move back and forth. Like sometimes I'm not going to say that there aren't times when I am absolutely in the drama, right? I'm in it. And there are times when I feel like I can't connect with that separate consciousness that's the observer. And there are times when I'm super chill, and there can be anything in the world going on, and I'm like, yeah, this is just a story people are telling themselves. We're good. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Right.
I had the realization today, lots of realizations today. It's like spirit planned for us to be here and talk.
Almost.
And I realized, wow, the place I was feeling just a particular peace that, again, I want to stress, like, this is not like, aren't we in a perfect place best? Because just 2 weeks ago, I was not feeling peace at all. I was in extreme pain in my body, headaches and anxiety and all this stuff. So this was, a newfound temporary place of peace.
Yes.
Because I do not also think it might not go away in a couple weeks. It might. But in that peace, I was feeling that sense of, wow, when you, and again, disclaimer, I'm not claiming to have reached this place, but when you reach the place where you feel that you have experienced both sides of most things, that's peace. Because then you don't feel that compulsion to experience more of, so it's like, for instance, if you've been rejected and now you also have seen, oh, wow, I'm on the other side of that table, and now someone else feels rejected by me. And wow, there's nothing I can do about that in this moment. I have to allow that, rather than try to fix it. Or, if you've been, feeling if you felt misunderstood in the past, and now someone else is really feeling profoundly misunderstood by you and you're not getting it, then okay, you're on the other side. So when you can kind of look at that and go, wow, I do feel in my life now that I've been on both sides of most things.
Mhm.
And that is a place of peace, because
Yep.
that hunger comes from your soul's desire to be on both sides of that table at one point or
Mm,
another. The soul's like, I don't
mm,
really care what side. I just am here to experience it all.
mhm,
Here to experience it all. So give me lack, then give me abundance. Give me
mm.
abandonment, then give me, feeling like I'm the
Acceptance,
abandoner.
belonging, yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
I see, yeah,
yeah.
mhm,
And having to
mhm,
kind of experience all of it.
mhm, mhm,
And, give me feeling lonely, and then give me feeling, smothered by everybody around me.
mm.
And having that sort of fullness where I've got, this balance on the brain
I
lately.
love that.
Yeah, where it's like having the yin and the yang, and not just feeling like you're pushing one away to get to the other constantly.
Yes. I think that that's so important, India. And again, it kind of goes back to something we were talking about at the very beginning. When we try to hold things, they tend to
Mhm.
push away. And when we push things away, they tend to gather in, right? And this is true for all the energies of the universe. So that place that you're talking about is that place where you accept it, whichever. If it's coming in, great. If it's going out, great.
Mhm.
And you recognize that that's just I want to say that's just life, but I don't mean it in that like dismissive way. I mean it as in that is literally what life is. It's
Flow.
experiencing.
It's
It's
flow. It's
experiencing the coming
flowing.
and it's experiencing the going. And it's experiencing the giving and the receiving and the doing and the being done too. And I think you're right. Like I think there's a point, and as we're sort of entering this, you know, we're a little older than we were in college. We've had a few more years of experience. And I think we're kind of reaching a stage where we've had like you said, most of those experiences on both sides. And when you've had that, then it's just a lot easier to stay calm. It's like
Yeah.
I see people panicking about whatever is the latest apocalyptic prediction for whatever it is, the economy, the climate, the whatever. And I'm not denying that there are things out there that are scary, that are right. Like I don't mean to be dismissive of those concerns. And at the same time, after a certain point, you've lived enough life. It's like, well, I've seen all of that. So
And that is the gift.
it'll be what it
That's the
is.
gift. Yeah, that's the gift of midlife, I think, because,
Yeah.
and then, but don't you think that the focus changes? It's like in the first half, you're in that the outside world affects me, other people
Mhm.
affect me. And that second half,
Mm.
you might have just as much upheaval, but you've got it from the inside.
Yes.
Like,
No, I
I'm,
think you're well,
yeah,
and I think along with that is if you're doing your work, not, some people just cruise through life and they don't bother digging any deeper than just whatever's going on around them. And they stay in this state of everybody else is doing things to them, right?
and maybe there's
But if
another
you're
lifetime. There might be another lifetime for the digging for that. Yeah.
right, then they had right. So, but I think that if you're doing this digging, what you discover somewhere around the middle of your life is that everything that's happening to you, you're doing to yourself, right? You
Yes.
start to realize that everything is in here and in here. And everything out here is just a reflection of that. And you can't
Yes.
change that anyway, but you can't change it by pushing at it. You can't change it by trying to make it do something else. You can't make somebody else behave differently. But when you shift this, the world starts reflecting back to you.
Yes. That is a major gift of confirmation. And second Morgan shout out of this podcast when I was with my friend earlier, same words
Oh man, wow.
we
Yeah.
were saying, because we were observing the same thing, because um, we were talking about how if something is showing up for you, it
Yep.
is in you.
Yep.
And if something's showing up and you are like, this really is not me, this is not me, this is not being reflected to me, then detach from it.
Mhm.
Like, because where we get into trouble is where we struggle with it. If something shows
Yeah.
up and you're like, no, this is 100% that thing or that
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
If that's true and it's not your energy, then detach from it. You'll
Right.
find out quickly if it really is your energy or not.
Right.
Because if you're just like, oh, that's better, then it wasn't
Yeah.
your energy. If you're like, now it's over here,
Right.
then it was you, you know, and
Yes.
you're
And
right. It's such a wonderful. Mm,
you said earlier something about people who've been married for 50 years to
yeah.
8 different people. And I think what you meant by that was that they had to accept that their person changes. But what I heard initially, which also is kind of an amazing thought, is unless you until you discover that you're the one who's creating everything out here, even if you date 8 separate people, it will be
Yeah.
the same person.
Yes.
Because you will
Absolutely.
continue to date the same essential energy in different physical form until you become aware of what it is that's in here that's driving those relationships and those attracting those relationships into your life. And,
Yeah.
and I speak this from experience, right? I'm not coming at this from like I'm ascended and I've figured relationships out, but what I have figured out, so I've been divorced about 2.5 years. And in that time, I was married for 25 years before that. In that time, what I've had to really uncover is the ways that I created the unhealthy patterns in that prior relationship. Because until I address that, I will just keep recreating that same relationship over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's and it's not just romantic relationships. We spend a lot of time focused on, I mean, in general, in culture, we spend a lot of time focused on that, but it's everything. It's our friendships. If our friends are letting us down, what's really happening is we're letting ourselves down. And
And it's
until we
family.
discover that,
You have something unresolved with a parent, it could trickle down to your child
right.
relationship. I mean, it's, if you're
Yes.
not aware and conscious. So yes, it's very
Yes.
much, and I love what you just said about you're going to date the same or be with the same person over and over too, because it feels like once you reach that place of saying, okay, I am at least at this place where I recognize that I have been in that dynamic of,
Mhm.
let me just go after the same energy and maybe I can
Uh-huh.
change it. And essentially it's the
Yes.
same, essentially
I'm
it's
going to
the same
change
energy.
them. I'm going to change them.
Because the mind says this, the mind says if you can just do that, then that will solve a, decades old problem that started when you were like 3 or 4,
Yes.
which was the problem of,
Yes.
why does this X thing always happen to me?
Right.
Or why, do I not get X, whatever it is. Whatever the ego found sort of the biggest problem with when we were
Yep.
5 or 6 or whatever, we're going to keep trying to get from that partner.
Yeah.
Well, if they give it to me, then that solves the equation, right?
Right.
And,
And so
and
we
then,
keep looking for somebody to come in and rescue us because we think we just need somebody to love us the right way.
right. Because the mind's like, because if they do, then that problem doesn't really exist anymore.
Right.
And then when you realize, oh, wow, I could not only do this with every person in the universe and still be in the same place, or I could live on a deserted island and still have this problem with myself.
Yes. Yeah.
If it's other people are too hard on me, eventually I'm going to be alone with me and I'm going to be way too hard on me. And that's
Yes.
just going to be the way it is. So when we realize that, we're like, oh, and the way to choose it is just stop being so hard on me. What?
Huh?
That's it. And then
Yep.
when we realize that, or whatever it is, just oh, the way to solve this is that, like you said, I am just loved, like it
Mhm.
is just there and
It's
it's
me.
everywhere. What?
Yeah.
And then you solve it within yourself. Then the next like unexplored frontier becomes, now what am I going to attract
Mhm.
in the struct of partnership?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now what does it look like? And I have a feeling it looks like, well, what are you curious about learning about? Because,
Ooh.
if you're no longer trying to solve this problem, then
Mm.
look around. Who are you curious enough to go exploring their universe for a decade or so?
Mm. Mm.
Because
Amazing.
that's going to be the thing to ask, not can they give me what I need, which is what the ego used to ask.
Right.
Can I give them what they need?
Right.
But am I
Right.
curious enough about their universe to explore it for a few years or decades?
Amazing. I love that.
And essentially, the answer
Yes.
can be yes for anyone.
And I
I
think,
mean, but
yeah.
but you
And
get to
I
decide.
think like this is so profound, India, because I think that's like until we figure that out, we
Yeah.
spend our whole lives in every aspect of our lives. We're trying to fix ourselves. We're trying to get the outside world to fix something. I need this job because I need X. I need this friendship because I need Y. I need this house because I need this. I need. Or if we're inveterate people pleasers, recovering people pleaser here, oh, I need that relationship because I need to fix them. And oh, I can fix their problem. And oh, I can take care of them. And oh, I see a problem that if they'll just listen to me, it would, right? Or I'm going to take this job because this company needs me. So it's all like, who needs what, right? And I think that when you move into this space that you just described, like, I think then it's not, you're not trying to fix problems. You're just exploring the universe.
You're just being curious.
It's just,
You're
who am I
just,
curious about? What am I curious about?
yeah. Because each one of us is endlessly fascinating. You could
Yes.
explore the universe of any one person we're still exploring ourselves, and it's been decades.
Yes.
So I mean, it's really just sort of okay, then pick, I
Yeah.
mean, spirit, we keep looking to spirit in every reading, and many of mine, perhaps because of my Libra, makeup, have been, or perhaps because of my own wound, but many of my readings that I do have been about partnership. And is this person
Yeah.
right? Are they not right? And are they going to
Yeah.
be right? And
Yeah.
Spirit's basically looking, going, yeah, that's what I'm asking you, because you're the only one who knows, like, what you
Mm.
actually want. It's sort of like going, hey, Spirit, where in the world should I visit? Like, where in the world? And Spirit's like, well, what do you want? Do
What do
you
you want?
want?
Like, do you want like Italy, or like, are you more in the mood for India? Like, or you could go to the Amazon if you're in the mood for, like, what do you want?
You've got the
The
whole
world
world
is
here.
endlessly fascinating. So
And we
pick
just sit
somewhere.
there and go, but tell me the right place. And it's like, okay,
What's the right place for me?
right. And Spirit's like, you tell me. And we're like, you tell me. And Spirit's like, you tell me. So that's
Oh my
something to
gosh.
keep in mind for anything.
Wow.
If you are continuously feeling, not just with love or
Mm.
travel, but if you are continuously feeling like you're looking at Spirit and going, tell me the answer, I promise you, Spirit's looking at you saying the same thing. Promise.
Yes. 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 And ultimately, like, I love that you like literally you're looking in the mirror, right? So we talk about this a lot, and I think about this a lot, that like everything in the world is a mirror. So every relationship, when you're looking at somebody else and you're judging them, you're judging yourself. And when you're looking at them and you're grateful for something, you're also grateful for that in yourself. And so spirit, the universe, God, whatever words you use, great mystery, is a mirror, and we are a mirror thereof. So when we're saying, tell me what to do, universe is saying, tell me what you
Tell
do.
me what you want to do. Yeah, I mean, because that's what it means. Even biblically, in spirit, in God's likeness,
Yeah.
it's like we
Yes.
get to live as spirit in this physical world, and
Mhm.
spirit's not standing there going, correct answer, wrong answer, correct. They got to correct. Oh, wrong, 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 wrong. That's not what's happening.
You
What's
did it wrong.
happening?
Now we're going to punish you.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
yeah. But we base all that on that little 6-year-old perception of
Mhm.
whatever we saw authority doing. Well,
Right.
authority was pleased with me when I did this and that. So surely the universe will be pleased with me when I do this and that,
Right.
or that, authority was punishing. So the spirit's
Yes.
gonna be punishing. And so to
Yes.
free ourselves from that struck too, and just to go, oh wow, this really is just all for me. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
then can I just have whatever's like in my highest reality? And then spirit's like, coming right up. That was easy.
Right. And often the answer is exactly what you already have. It's like,
Right.
yeah, that's what you want. Yeah, here it is. Like, there it is. It's right there.
Going
You
back
got
to
it already.
when you talked about the rebirthing being hard,
Yeah.
what I tend to do is I will want to like skydive into the next dimension of
Mm.
my experience. And then when I do that, I'm jumping out of the plane and I'm going, "Wah," the whole way down, because I'm just
Mm.
like, or I forgot the parachute or whatever.
Yeah.
And always spirit's like, you asked, for for this, like you said, I asked for this to happen.
Mhm.
But you forgot to ask for it to feel good, to be harmonious, to be easy, to
Ah,
be effortless, to
mm,
be joyful, to be,
mm,
and it's not like a gotcha thing, but it is like a, hey, I'm just teaching you. Next time you do this,
mm,
go ahead and include the joy,
mm,
the ease,
mm.
the flow. But
Yeah.
then the little catch is that those are all the things that we're conditioned to think we shouldn't have. We're
Ah,
conditioned to think, oh, well, that's selfish. You shouldn't have that much
mm,
joy. What about everybody else? Well,
mhm.
effortless. No, you should work hard and things should be difficult. What are you even doing? Oh, just
Mhm.
it be about you. Well, we're going to judge you now because things should,
Yeah.
and it just all the things the universe wants us to do, humans specifically tell us not to
Mm,
do out of fear.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah,
So it's like, just go ahead and
yeah,
ask for those things, see what happens. See if you
yeah,
get hit by lightning, because you won't. You will get hit by all your blessings when you say, just please bring it in
yeah.
easily and fun and all the things you want.
And I think that that speaks too to something that an insight that I was given in one of my journeys, where I met this being who told me that I could have anything that I want. I just
Mhm,
had to know what it is.
mhm.
And And that struck me as so profound because most of the time we don't know what we want. And even when we know a piece of it, we don't know all of it. So it's like what you were just saying when you ask for, I want this, I want to be reborn, I want to grow, I want to be stronger, I want to be healthier, I want a lover, I want whatever it is that we want, right? We forget or we don't realize that there's so much else we want. We want to have it with joy. We want to have it with ease. If it's a lover we're looking for, we want them to treat us well. We want but what does that even mean? What does it mean for you to be so like I feel this like the universe constantly pushing us to be more specific, to be
Yes,
really clear. Like
yes,
really, really, what do you want?
yes.
Right?
Because if the universe is always saying whatever you want, it's, what do you
Yes.
want? And then our answer is like, I don't know. Then the universe says next, we'll go find out.
Okay. Well, here's
And
some stuff. What do you think?
what better way to find out than, like, yeah, trying a bunch of stuff that maybe isn't it?
Right.
And then you get really clear on what is it.
Yeah.
And, and I'm telling you, I mean, and you're probably in the same place. The list gets simpler with experience because now it really does break down to just ease,
Yeah.
joy,
Yeah.
support, really
Mm.
clear
Mm-hmm.
things. And
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, it would have been
Mm-hmm.
much fancier of a,
Yes, and that's that destructing, right? So
yeah,
we have all these structs around what we think we want. We want
yeah,
it, and we want it to look a very specific way. We want 4 bedrooms, and we want, mid-century modern, and we want half an acre, and we want a garden, and we want an apple tree, and right.
yeah,
When really what we want is safety or comfort or connection or a nest for our family to be happy in or joy, or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe we just want beauty in our lives, right? But we think we have to have it a very specific way, so we build these structs around what that looks like, and then we get frustrated because we don't have the money or we don't have the location or we got turned down for a mortgage or whatever, right?
yeah.
When that wasn't really what we wanted anyway. We just thought we did.
And yeah, and we take those things, those rejections to mean that we're not supposed to have it. And it's like, no, that's just the mind struck going, see, just
Mhm,
stay with this, because then at
mhm,
least we know what's going on. Because opening
mhm.
up to the beingness is so much more uncertain all the time of
Yeah,
what will it look like and what could it look like
yeah,
next. So
yeah.
love that. I wanted to get back to the money thing and the energy
Okay.
because I picked up a book the other day um, that I'm just laughing in my head because it's a book that when my child saw the title, he read it out loud and it's made me giggle. But it's Make Money Like a Badass, because it's by this author who writes everything like a badass.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
or you're a badass. You're a badass at making money is what it is. And just to hear a child say that is very humorous. And and just say it like unironically, like you're a badass at making money. And in that book, they're by I think her name is Jen Pequeno. I want to, since I'm saying it officially, I want to make sure. Um, let's see, badass. I'm just gonna Google badass Jen Pequeno. I got it. Okay.
Wow,
So
nice.
yeah. She
Okay,
writes
I'm
all
letting my
the
dog out. So,
Okay, go ahead.
okay.
And all of those books are about the energy that she calls badass. It's just like being in flow, being aligned.
Uh-huh.
And so in this book, she has you deal with money energy by writing a letter to money as if it were a partner that you've had all your life. So it says, money, dear money, I always feel rejected by you. And even though I want to
Mm,
be close to you, or I always feel like every time I try to depend on you, you leave.
uh-huh.
Or, I admire you, but I never feel like I can have you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I never feel like I'm good enough for you, whatever it is. And I loved that, approach, because the minute I clicked in with that and was like, what is my message to money? It was like, oh, well, no wonder, because
Mhm.
I'm manifesting more of that,
Mhm. Mhm.
because my mind says this is your relationship with that energy.
Mhm.
Mine is like, oh, you come easily, but then, you know, if I don't do everything right, I'm going to screw up and you won't be there.
Yes, yes. And India, that goes back to that realization I've had over the last few days about money, right? And so it's everything is a mirror. So there's our letters to money, but what would money say to us? And my realization that my anxiety about money was making my life an unpleasant place for money to be,
Right.
right? Like inviting a guest into your home, but you're so anxious that like you're hovering over them constantly, or you're so angry, you have so much social anxiety, you just don't even spend time with them. You leave them in your living room and you go do something else because you don't know how to interact with them. How many times are your guests going to come over when you're acting that way, right? But that's how I was treating money. And so
Yes.
it's that like and so it was mirroring my anxiety right back to me.
Yeah. And
I
if you
love
look at
that.
that, it's probably pretty similar to our relationships with people.
Yeah.
Right? Because we just have this core way of relating that, and it's, if it's anxious with people, it's anxious with
Right.
money. If it, and it's really interesting. And it's interesting also to look at the ways that the ego compensates for that by going,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't care, like my compensating ego goes like, I just don't even think about money. I just don't even care
Yeah.
about it. Not on my radar.
Yeah.
And really that's like covering up this inadequacy feeling or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Very interesting, yeah.
Yep. Yep. All of
So
that.
just to conclude,
Mhm.
um, because I don't want to, I feel like we could go in a million
I
directions,
know.
and we may have to go in a million directions like every few weeks or so, because this is gonna
Yeah.
um, but so please speak a little bit about how you like to connect with people, what you would like anybody listening to this to know about you and
Okay.
how you would want to be related to.
Sure. Thank you for opening that door. Yeah. So I'm Fen Druadìn, and my primary occupation right now is I'm a book midwife, which is work that I came into very much the way that India came into the work that you do, India, because it was very much spirit led. I visioned this work for me. I saw my background as a freelance writer. I'm an author. I'm a storyteller, and saw that there was this opportunity to help other people claim their voices in a really powerful way. And I had a vision about that. And that is what I do now. So I love my work. I love the authors that I work with. You can find me at fendruadin.com. And that's a great place to kind of see some of my work. I am also always open to being connected with on LinkedIn or on Facebook, are the two primary social platforms that I occupy, and I'm pretty easy to find because it is just Fen Druadìn everywhere. That's that's a pretty unique name.
Mhm.
What else do I want people? I think just everything we just talked about here is a pretty good insight into my soul, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
yeah,
and
and
in
I'm
addition to
just
that, I would like people to know that you also, I don't know how you offer these, but you also do amazing intuitive readings, and Fen connects with, nature in an incredible way and
oh yes.
passes along spirit messages through trees, through nature.
Oh
And
yes.
yeah.
I
That's
should share that, yeah, a couple of things on that. So the trees were so when Ken died, one of the things that he told me was to go to the trees. And that has the trees became my teachers and been a very profound and lifelong relationship. And I do have a couple of books. One of them will be available. It's not currently available for order, but will be soon. I'm holding it up as the podcast listeners can hear it, but it's
I am
a
putting this on
message.
YouTube too, so that's good.
Oh, okay. So it's the Messages from the Land deck. Again, come to fendruadin.com when this is available for purchase again. It will show up there. And this is messages that were channeled through me from the sacred land that I spend time on, and through a particular tree who is a particular friend whose name is Brenna. And they're in just little chunks. And the deck of cards, you can use them as oracle cards, you can use them as meditations. So that is part of my work as well. I am an author. I write short stories and that kind of thing. But so you were mentioning the readings. I am not currently working sort of one-on-one with people just for that. It has become a part of my practice. So it was interesting. I had a call with somebody today to talk about the book that he's working on. And one of the things he said was that he needed a therapist or a healer. And I'm not a therapist, disclaimer, I'm not a mental health professional, but when he said he needed a healer to help him, it really struck me, because that is part of, I bring this work into that work. So I do meditations, I do readings, I do all of that as part of this work of helping
It
people
sounds like
birth
that was
their book.
another little soul connection invitation for you, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
tell Fen that feelings are needed.
Yes. Yes. And if you do follow me on Facebook, I do occasionally have offers of various sorts. I do go to the land and channel messages specifically for individuals. And that is not an always offering, but it is an offering that sometimes I feel led to make. So that's another way of engaging